So we'll go ahead and get started. Thank you to everybody who's joined so far. If you could, somebody who's interested in law school, share the live. We won't be up here long. We're only going to do about 25, 30 minutes. So we're going to do our introductions. I have some questions for Misty Williams. And then I'll allow you guys to ask any questions that you may have up until our cutoff point. So we won't go past 8:30, but we'll take any questions we can up until that point. So I'll start with myself. For those of you who either were following Misty Williams and you don't know me or you just started following me, I'm Jasmine. I am in Charlotte, North Carolina. I started law school in 2021, which was not that long ago, even though it felt like it was forever ago. And as I was starting law school, I couldn't find a lot of resources that would give me the information that I was looking for as far as like, how do I navigate this new territory as a mom? Most students go straight from college into law school. That was not the case for me. Law school was my third career. I started out teaching kindergarten for 4 years, so my bachelor's was in elementary education. I got a master's in instructional design, which is basically corporate training and teaching. So I did that for 4 years. And then in the midst of the pandemic, I decided to take the LSAT and go to law school. So it was kind of on a whim. And due to that, not having any resources and trying to figure out how to navigate this whole thing and could not being able to find any information, I created the nonprofit Moms in Law School, which you can see above my head, to kind of be that resource to other women. So I started on a small Facebook group. We later got our 501c3. And so in the meantime, what I've just been doing is just providing questions and answers through our Facebook group. I do Zoom meetings with women who have questions and want to, talk one-on-one about what their experience might look like. And my eventual goal is to offer scholarships and financial resources. So that is basically who I am. I did just graduate, so I am no longer a mom in law school.
Good job.
But I,
That's a
yeah,
huge feat. Sorry. Clap, 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 clap.
oh, you're fine. Thank you so much. Yeah, I graduated Friday, so fresh off of the law school train.
I did
It,
see that video. I'm gonna stop interrupting. I'm sorry.
no,
But
you're
I saw that
fine.
video and I was like, oh my gosh, she graduated.
Yes, yes. It was such an exciting moment. It's still a little surreal, probably because I still have to take the bar, but I know I'm going to pass it. Um, but the next 2 months will be intense of that, but it's still a little surreal. So let's go over to our special guest who I know, and some of you all may know through the YSL trial, but she is so much more than that. Her career started way before that. And so I'm going to let her give you guys a brief overview, and then I'll have a little bit more detailed questions on things that she may or may not hit on.
Okay. So I'm Angela D. Williams. I was on the YSL trial. I represented one of the youngest, well, the youngest co-defendant in the trial in Fulton County in Georgia. Um, just like Miss LaShawn, I also, this is not my first career. I went from the high school to the military, and then the military to random things. I wanted to be an insurance adjuster. How did I get here? I don't know. And then on a whim, my mom was like, well, the military is going to pay for it. So why don't you go to law school? I was like, well, I'm not going to get into law school. Are you serious? Like, I didn't think about it in college. I'm not going to be able to make it into law school. Oh, Angie, you just take the LSAT, blah, 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 blah. I was like, you can't argue with your mom, right? And so I studied for the LSAT, took it, and then I was able to get into a school in Atlanta. Um, it's geared more towards people who are maybe not non-traditional students. So for the most part, it is a lot of adults, and it's like their second or third, fourth career. Of course, you do have some people who are there who go from high school, college, law school. So it was an interesting mix at my school, and I took a few years off because my favorite aunt and my dog died around the same time. That was a lot. So I was like, I am not ready for the bar. Let me just take a moment. So I took about like a year or two off. Then I studied for the bar, passed, and then COVID hit. So good job, Angie. And I was a public defender in Clayton County, and I was in the preliminary hearing division, which is basically probable cause. And then I just kind of jumped around, and my latest feat was the YSL trial.
Okay. So I mean, like you would think that, which we won't get too much into the YSL trial, but just based off of what you said, um, just you would think that you would want a little bit more experience before you got thrown into something like that. I do have a question about juggling that towards the end, but let's go back to law school. So you said you took the law school outside on a whim. I did too. I was sitting there in 2020 in the midst of the pandemic, like, if I had to be a corporate trainer and teacher for the rest of my life, I'd be okay, but it's not exciting. So I started looking at what else I could do. I was like, I'm just going to jump into the LSAT. So you take the LSAT, you apply, you get into law school. And so you said yours is geared more to, adults who have, been in their career a little bit, or who have, been out of college for a little bit. Did you ever think like, what is my day to day going to look like now that I have a child and I'm going to add this onto my plate?
Oh, absolutely. Because I was a stay-at-home mom for 12 years. So going to school, I'm not gonna lie, I have a special needs son. I was bored. So that's actually why I started going to college because I was bored at home and the military pays for it. So I'm not gonna let them just keep their money.
Right.
So of course I went to school. And then it was exciting to meet people who, were just in regular school. And then the law school on a whim thing, I was like, okay, how's it? I was like, okay, if I could do college, I could do law school. Law school is a completely different beast. I moved around a little bit, so I went from daytime to nighttime, and then I realized that my son didn't care for it too much
Mm,
because when I would be home during the day, I was studying. So he was like, "No," and he started acting out. So
mm,
I switched back to the daytime, so it pushed me behind a little bit. But while he was in school, I was in school. Um, I kind of had to learn how to navigate his schedule and my schedule. So when he was at school, I was at school. If I wasn't at school, I was studying, but while he was at school. So I kind of had to navigate around him.
yeah,
It
I
was
have.
good.
Oh, go
Uh-huh.
ahead. Sorry.
Oh, I was gonna say like taking the bar was in. I did not pass the first time because I that schedule was not working. So the daytime I was studying, at nighttime I was tired, and he was like, "Oh, you're tired," and he would start acting up, and I was like, "Oh my god!" And so I had to learn how to change my studying strategy based on his schedule. So yeah, having a special needs child and doing law school, that is a lot. And you have to learn like just navigating. I guess I could have learned in law school if I had to do my whole schedule around him. Obviously the bar would be the same, but I was like, no, I'll be fine.
Yeah,
No.
I have a lot of women who ask, like, how do you navigate it? And I say, you just do the best you can.
Mm-hmm.
I shared, my schedule because I also commuted. So my law school is in Greensboro. I live in Charlotte. I commuted an hour and a half to law school for the first year, just about every day, and then an hour and a half back.
Oh my god.
Yeah, and then I also worked two full-time jobs the whole time. And so a lot of people ask, like, what does that look like? How do you do it? And I'm just like, you have to think about what all you have going on. Are you working? Do you have a support system around you? What
Right.
does that look like for you? Are you going part-time? Are you going full-time? So what does that look like for you? And everybody has to kind of adjust. And it's never going to be perfect. Like you heard Misty Williams say, she started it one way and then she had to adjust from there because that wasn't working. And same thing with the bar. So it's never going to be perfect. It is something that you have to do trial and error. And it's also along with the studying and the reading and not understanding cases that you're going to add to your 13th reason. But don't let that deter you. Just do workarounds. It is a trial and error. So
Mhm.
definitely don't let a schedule issue or anything like that stop you. It's challenging but doable.
Yeah, it's not impossible. You just have to, like you said, navigate, figure it out, trial and error. And then once you get into the career field, you realize everything is like they were prepping you for what work is going to be. You're going to be drained after work. You're going to have to deal with all kinds of different people. You are going to get curveballs. I'm sure in law school, they're like, oh, what about this case? Whoa, professor, you did not tell us about this case. Well, here we are. What? And so, like, it seems horrible, but they're prepping you for what's going to happen.
Yep. Hey
So,
Taylor.
oh, hey, girl,
Yeah.
hey.
And so that is one thing that I always tell people, even though you think it may be a hindrance, being a mom in law school also kind of gives you a leg up because nothing teaches you to roll with the punches more than being a mom. And once you're in law school, you kind of learn that. So like I said, I went the traditional law school to a traditional law school. I didn't do part time. I did full time with I'd say 95% of my class were students straight from college. So
Mhm.
these are 21, 22-year olds, 23. And there were probably like three or four other parents in my class. And so they don't have any other responsibility. Most of them are on full scholarships. Their bills are most likely paid for either through parents or scholarships. When they're done at school, they're done at school. They don't have to go clock in for a job. They don't have kids that they have to go take care of. They're done. And so they are done and they can go study. So they don't have to juggle everything. And so a lot of them would complain when papers would be due at the same time as exams. They were complaining, and we were just, I had one mom that I was kind of close with, and we would just be like, I mean, it is what it is. We're used to having to do 1,000 things at once while they're complaining and then we're also kind of like, but you should also shut up because you don't have anything else to worry about but the and exams.
Right.
We
I
got
was
to
a
worry
little
about
jealous of them. Right.
right,
Because you're like, oh, that's what you're complaining about?
exactly. But it
And then
does,
at your school, did you only have like certain absences and after like two, did you be cut?
yeah. So you only get like, I think the max in a class I might have had was three. I mean, when
Right.
you get to like your senior classes, some of them don't care, but those first 2 years, they're mostly like you have one, two, or three, depending on how many credit hours the class is. And after that, you're either going to fail or be dropped from the class. And so not only do you have to worry about your sickness, you have to worry about your child's sickness or your child's doctor appointments and all of that. So that's an
Right.
added thing too.
Right. Like I know, so I am married, but at the time my husband was working out of state 3.5 weeks out of the month. So it was almost like I was a single parent. So we had to get a babysitter because when they always have like either sick days or when they have what's it like holidays and they have like the whole week off,
Hmm.
that spring break might not line up with my spring break.
Never did.
Right, right. So you have to figure that out too. And then when they do call, like, hey, so sick, like, well, what am I supposed to do with this beginning of the semester? Like, I
Yeah.
can't, no, like, like, is he sick, or,
Right. Like, is there a fever? Is it contagious?
right? I need to know what are we sending him home for? Because my commute wasn't an hour and a half; it was just like an hour. But heavy traffic because it was in Atlanta and I lived in the suburbs, so heavy traffic every time. If you don't carpool, that's horrible. So it adds on to it. Is so yeah, that was the scheduling was a lot. When you're a mom, it's a lot.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
So, my first year, my daughter had her fifth birthday. My mom wanted to take her to Disney World. We planned it on her spring break. Of course, her spring break didn't fall on my spring break.
Because of course not.
So, and then that's another thing, like those days, your professors that they give you off, um, are kind of also like kind of could be built-in mental health days. And so it's good to like save them. Like even if you're a person who doesn't get sick a lot, it's good to save them. Like if you need a mental health day, well, I had to forego all of those days for all of my classes to save them so that I could take my daughter to Disney World for her fifth birthday because and so if I did I was like praying the whole time, like, please don't let me get sick because then I'm just going to have to power through. Like, I won't be
Right.
able to miss it. So the scheduling is a big, big, big thing.
And that's something that they don't tell you when you're like applying to law school or if you don't know anybody. Nobody tells you that that schedule is not the same as undergrad.
Exactly. It is not the same. They do not care as much. There's not as much like leadway, like extensions. They are going to tell you if someone is not unalived
Mhm.
and you are not in the hospital, no extensions. Like you have to have extenuating circumstances in order to get an extension in law school. It
And it
is,
has to be like mom, dad, brother that lives with you,
yep,
child that is yours, not stepchild.
exactly.
Yeah. Oh, Taylor asked, what's the schedule like?
Everyone is different. So mine is especially different, and Misty Williams will probably be different too because she did a like it wasn't. What did you call it? It's not part time. Was it part time?
No, I went full time, and then I went to nighttime, night class, so
Okay.
that was part time. And then when my son was like, "Oh, absolutely not," then I went back to full time.
So, and then I went to Elon, which is an accelerated program. It's 2.5 years, so it's a little bit different than most.
Mm.
But for the most part, you will have, especially your first year, it's the most intense year because you're getting all your core classes out the way, which is like your Civ Pro, your tort, your properties, your con law, all of that out the way. So you will usually have classes Monday through Friday, maybe Monday through Thursday, and you will probably be in from like 9 to 3. You won't go 9 to 5 like a regular job, but they'll be 9 to 3, and then of course the classes alternate. So you might have torts Monday, Tuesday, along with, I mean, sorry, Monday, Wednesday, along with maybe like legal communications Monday, Wednesday, and then something else, 2 other classes Tuesday, Thursday. So you will definitely that first year have a more jam-packed schedule. And then as you progress to your 2L and your 3L year, you get to, back off because you don't have to be worried about getting those core classes out the way, and you can start to focus more on your elective classes, which are like where you kind of want to focus your practice to be.
Yeah, and then and usually in your 2L year, that's when you have like maybe Monday off or Wednesday. Like you can build your schedule so you know you okay. I want 2 days off. And you might jam pack your whole day from 9 to literally like 3 or 9 to 5. And then they have like maybe a 3 hour window, and then the nighttime students start coming in.
Yeah. And so I do split custody with my child's father. And so he has her on Monday, Tuesday nights overnight. And so I would build, like, if I wanted to take any late classes, I would try and take the majority of my classes and late classes on front load them towards the beginning of the week on Monday and Tuesday while she was with her dad. And then try and cut my classes off around 12 or 1 Wednesday through Friday so that I could get back to Charlotte and pick her up. That
Mm-hmm.
did not work every semester. It just because of class offerings.
Right.
And then in those cases, I either had to switch days with her dad. I was blessed enough because I know that a lot of moms I talk to aren't able to do this, but I was blessed enough to hire a nanny this last year. So that's also a possibility. But as I tell all my moms, you have to develop a support system, support system you can trust, because I know people don't, we don't play about our kids, and you have to leave them with somebody you can trust. But if it's, not their father, if it's your parents, sisters, aunts, brothers, uncles, neighbors you can trust, coworkers, friends you can trust, do that. When I did hire a nanny, I ran background checks. I went through care.com to make sure everything was copacetic. So you do kind of have to build your support system and get people that you can rely on to kind of backload where you can't be present.
Yep. Because I know I went through care.com too. Because I'm an only child, so I don't really have family.
Ooh.
So we use care.com. The first two babysitters were trash. So they would call out all the time. So as I'm heading to school, oh, I can't make it. I was like, I'm about to fail law school. I'm about to fail law school. I don't even know what to do. I think one time I brought my son. Whew, that was horrible. And the professor was like, "You can't have your son." I was like, "I don't know. I don't know what you want me to do. I don't know what you want me to do. Like, I can't miss any classes. I don't know what you want me to do." And so they were like, "Well, just excuse you." I'm like, "But are you gonna mark me here?"
Right.
And my son, he's like extremely disruptive. And so they were like, "We will mark you here, and next time maybe we'll just let you like get on somebody's Skype or something." I was like, "Okay," but I had to do all that just to get there.
Yeah, I would definitely say, like, talk to your professor. If something does come up, just be upfront and talk to your professors. Some are okay with you bringing your kids, some are not. So just make sure you talk with them up front and just let them know what's going on. For the most part, I'm not saying this is across the board or at any school, all schools, but for the most part, they'll be pretty understanding about if you can't bring them in, then we'll figure out some way for you to either do Zoom or make it up or something. But you do have to, and then I also tell them try not to wait till the last minute. And one thing that I made a practice of doing is up front when I'm doing introductions, you're gonna know because they always say tell your name, where you're from, and where you went to undergrad. I always add in there, I'm a mom and I'm from Charlotte. That way, I'm commuting and I have a kid. So if anything comes up, I'm not here in Greensboro and I have other responsibilities. All my professors knew from day one, I'm
Right.
commuting and I have a kid. So that if anything came up later, hey, that kid I told you about, she's got a fever and I can't bring her into law school because we don't want to get everybody else sick. Can I zoom in? Can I make up whatever? And so
Mhm.
be very upfront about that.
Yeah, I just had to I had to prove a point because usually when people are like, "Oh, special needs, whatever," but they didn't because he's autistic. So people just think, "Oh, so he's super smart, blah blah blah," and it's like, no, he's not that kind of autistic.
Mhm.
Sorry. And so I had to like literally bring him in for the professors to see him to be like, okay, she needs an exception. Because he was screaming, he was running around, he was punching people. I was like, what are we gonna do? Because
Yeah.
you guys are not about to fail me. What are we gonna do?
Mhm.
And so when we finally got the third babysitter, it was amazing. So even if I wasn't in school, I would be able to use her and be able to like go study.
Right.
Because that studying, like that first year, I think is like the worst. But I think it's because one, you're getting all this new information, and after doing undergrad, you're like, okay, I'll just read it, I'll be fine. But law school is completely different because you have to really analyze it in a way that you probably never analyzed anything. Um, and then you're tired because I used to read for fun all the time. I remember the first week of undergrad, it was more like introductions. It was kind of like goof off, whatever. Law school, I hope you read that 1,000 pages for the first class. That's just
Right.
class one. And I was like, oh, I didn't get that assignment. Everybody else did. I'm in trouble.
I will say that you have to. So this kind of goes into Taylor's question. How did you manage study time with extra responsibilities? So I'm not gonna lie, some things got missed, but one thing I did rely on is writing things down, trying to like at least the first year. I will say that after the first year, I kind of fell off doing this, but the first year I was very like writing things down in a planner. I ordered an Erin Condren, and like I would fill out my schedule for like when I'd be in class, when I would have time to study. I would even like pencil in like spending time with my daughter just so I wouldn't, because you do have a little bit of mom guilt when you've got all that going on. So like I would write everything down and like try and see where I could fit it in. A lot of times it was trying to just wait until she went to bed and then studying. You're going to be tired because you've been in classes all day. And so now they have like a lot of good resources like Quimby, that you can kind of rely on because Quimby has Quimby has videos of most of the cases that are going to be in your case book. And so if you don't have time to read the case, or even if you just don't understand, I would say if you can invest in a Quimby subscription, they're about $30 a month.
And
And
then
one
share with your friends if you're on a budget.
Yeah, share with your friends. One thing I'm trying to work on is gifting subscriptions to some of our members, because it is one of the best things that I relied on through law school when I couldn't read. They summarize, even if they don't have a video for it, they summarize the IRAC issue, rule, analysis, and conclusion stuff for you. So when I just was like 9:30, my daughter had gone to bed, and I was like, I can't open a case book. I would listen to Quimby on the way to school because they have the app too. So I'd pull it up on my phone, put it up on my dash, and listen to the video on my way to school. And then sometimes I would take my daughter to the park. So this would be us spending time together because she's young. So taking her to the park is spending time with her, even if I'm not running around in the park. And then I'd sit on the bench and study and read. That way I'm knocking two things out the way at once.
Yeah, because you do have to yeah, navigate that. Either a park, Chuck E. Cheese is a free babysitter. um, I didn't have many play dates because I don't have any families. So we didn't have any play dates. So yeah, I would take him to like a Chuck E. Cheese. I would take him to like a concert or something. He would be doing that, and I'd just be studying. um, Definitely, Outline Depot was like my best friend. You could actually find your school and your professor. And sometimes, of course, the professor would change it up, but there are certain cases that everybody has to know. And just find an outline that works for you. I think you pay for them by, if you submit an outline, they give you an outline. So, but I do suggest like you do have to read the case, but then also look at the outline because maybe it'll help you if you read a little too fast.
Is the level okay? So the she's asking if the level of transparency is held against you at all. I've never had it held against me because most of your professors are parents in some way, shape, or fashion. If they're not, they're pretty understanding. I trying to remember if I had a professor that wasn't. Yeah, I did have a professor that wasn't a parent. He was still kind of understanding.
Hmm.
Um, so I don't know. Did you ever experience anyone
Yeah,
holding?
that's why I had to bring my son because they didn't
Oh,
believe
yeah, you did say
me.
that. So like you did have to
Yeah,
like have a demonstration, which is unfortunate.
right. And then my son, because at the time he had horrible behavior issues. So driving from, I was in Henry County. So driving from Henry County to Fulton County is about like an hour. And my son jumps out of cars. So it was a lot just to get him to the school,
Yeah.
getting him into the garage. He would take off running. He's been hit by a car because he just takes off. He doesn't understand safety.
Hmm.
So as soon as we got to the school, he took off running, causing all kind of chaos. So people had to learn him, and they were like, "Okay, D. Williams, if she says that she can't come, we're just gonna have to figure something out."
Yeah.
Because at first they didn't believe me. They think if you have somebody with special needs, that means they're probably just like sitting there and they're just not doing anything. And it's like, no. And they think autistic. Okay, he could sit there and just read a book. It's like, no, he's not. He's not the TV autistic. I'm sorry. He's not going to be a doctor.
Um, that's so unfortunate. And luck I mean, not luckily, but eventually you were able to get to a resolution. And so that's all you can
Demonstration.
really hope for.
Yeah, I had to do the demonstration. That's the only way. So sometimes you just have to prove a point. You just be like, all right, you're not about to flunk me, so let's figure this out.
Yeah, let's
But
get it.
maybe now, because I went to school before COVID, so maybe after COVID, maybe they are a little bit more lenient with, Zoom and stuff to be like, okay, as long as
Well,
you're,
my law school wasn't that lenient with Zoom. Like
oh, really?
even yeah, the first year they were, because like I started in 2021.
Ah,
And then I didn't say this earlier, but I took a year off just because I couldn't afford it. So with my previous degrees, I had used up most of my federal loans.
mhm.
There is a cap. I found out when I got to law school, there's a cap on the amount of federal loans you can take out.
Did not
um,
know that.
yeah, there's a cap. And so I was almost at my cap after getting a bachelor's and a master's. So did take a year off. And then, so by the time I came back, it was like, we're not doing Zoom. Like the only thing that they did through Zoom was towards the end of the trimester when they would do like at the end of the year when they do like review sessions for the class. Um or if the professor couldn't be there. So the professor couldn't be there, they would,
Mm.
but they were like no Zoom. Also because the ABA has like these guidelines on how much online time you can have
Mhm.
without it being like a hybrid type thing. And then when
Okay.
with hybrid comes different sets of rules. And so a lot of schools don't want to muddy the waters on how much. So you only have a if you are a FaceTime school, meaning you're face to face, you only have a certain amount of credit hours you can have that were distance learning. And so a lot of schools don't want to muddy those waters. So that's another reason that my school was like, only
Mm.
certain circumstances with Zoom.
Okay, so I did not know that.
Yeah. Taylor asked, what is an outline? So, for all of your classes, there is literally an outline that outlines all of the concepts, all of the rules, all of the things you need to know for that class from beginning to end. And Quimby and some other resources, Barbary, Themis, they will have either free outlines or outlines you can buy that are commercial, meaning they cover everything that any given class in the United States, so any given property class in the United States will cover all of these things. So here's the rules you need to know. If it's statutes in that you need to know, they're in there, or cases from beginning to end. However, when you're in law school, you take the professor, not necessarily the class sometimes. So some of your professors won't cover all concepts. So, for example, my evidence professor didn't cover privileges. So we didn't go over spousal privilege as far as
Okay.
evidence goes. But most of your commercial outlines will have that in there. So you can take those outlines because I have them all saved on my computer, but then you can kind of like either copy and paste or help them stream your outline for class because you're going to use that outline for class on the exam. But all of those commercial outlines will also be good for the bar. So I still have them all saved on my computer um, to do that.
Yep, use those for the bar too, because and then also for the bar, I know the way I studied, our bar website has every single old essay question they've ever asked. And so when I used to give myself practice tests, I would download one from the bar website and then write it out. And they always have like I think the top scores. And I just compared my essay to theirs. And one of my questions actually showed up that they already tested for in the past. I was like, oh, I'm passing this. I
Right.
just saw this.
Yeah, I saved everything. I know a lot of my classmates will like throw away everything because they didn't need anymore. I saved everything.
Save
Also, because
everything.
your bar prep programs are expensive, and like I said, probably about a year in, I had to pay out of pocket for law school, so I didn't know how much money I was going to have to buy a bar prep program. So I was like, I'm
Mhm.
saving everything. If I have to do this on my own, I'll be prepared.
Right, right. I feel like you kind of need to though.
Yeah.
Oh
So
wow, yeah. Keep everything.
yes.
Um, and then I know like the first year, I think I got my like set of best friends, and we're still friends like to this day. So that first year, you're gonna have like your own little study group. You're gonna mesh well with other people. You guys are gonna study kind of the same.
Mhm.
Um, and you're probably gonna study with them for the bar and everything.
Yep.
And then they're gonna probably do different things in law. You're gonna do different things in law. And as you progress in your legal career, you realize when you're doing interviews, it's kind of just like a courtesy. But for the most part, people already know each other.
Yep.
So it's a very network heavy profession for sure.
Yeah, and you'll find your people. I don't have a lot though. So because I was commuting and then had to get back to Charlotte, I didn't have time to like stick around campus a lot of days to like hang out and socialize with a bunch of people. I also didn't get to do a lot of clubs. I did do the Black Law Student
Oh,
Association.
Masa, yeah.
Boss, I did do Balsa, but I didn't get to do a lot of the other clubs that if I didn't have to run back to Charlotte, I probably would have done.
Mhm.
But that's like a lot of the people in my core group, which is only four, so I'm saying a lot. But like three, I'll say two or three of the people in my core group were also moms, so like they kind of understood, what that's like.
Yeah, because
So,
I didn't get to do that either. Like a lot of the clubs, because they had things like after class,
mhm.
and I had to get
Or on
home
the
because the
weekend,
babysitter. Right, like the barista's ball was like, my babysitter's not staying at night. I'm not. I
exactly.
went to prom. I'm good.
Exactly. All right. I'm going to try and get through the rest of these questions. We'll do this again, guys. I plan on, if you can, if you're on here and you're not following the Moms in Law School page, please go follow it. Please go share it so that I can get to 300 and I can go live over there rather than my personal page because I do want to do these a lot more, even though TikTok is, if TikTok doesn't go away, we'll at least have a presence established on TikTok because we have a good Instagram presence, we have a good Facebook presence, but we didn't have a TikTok presence. So let me see. I'm trying not to miss any questions, but also hurry up. Did being a mom influence your decision to go to an accelerated law school? Yes. Because I had, like, again, like I said, I had already had a career. I was a mom. I'm not old. I'm 33, but I felt like I was,
The
at some,
oldest.
huh?
Like I feel like you're the like when you're in your 30s or even your early late 20s, you feel old there.
Yes.
But they have people who are in their 50s, 60s, but just still like,
But it's not many. So, like in my class, there were not many people over the age of 30. I'll never forget at orientation, I was standing in line behind these two kids and they were talking about what high school they went to. And I was like, oh, I went there too. And they were like, was such and such there when you were there? And I was like, oh no. And I was like, what year did y'all graduate? And they were like 2015. And I was like, oh, never mind.
but I think the only good thing about going to like school with them, because I feel like I went to school with a lot of Gen Zers, whatever. So I kind of took a little bit of their attitude because it is a real like, no, we're doing work life balance for real. Like they do
Yeah.
not play, and I
Yeah.
appreciate that.
Yeah.
And so I think that's why a lot of people think I'm younger than I am because I took a lot of their attitude.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, oh no,
Um,
I'm not working after 5. What do you mean? No, I'm done.
exactly. But Sarah, that did come back to bite me because I didn't I did it more so just to hurry up and get it over with. So I would have, had I not taken a year off, I would have graduated last December. But because I took a year off, I'm graduating now. So it would have been the same if I would have just went to a traditional 3 year school. So it did come back to bite me because I was trying to rush. And so I tell a lot of my moms, don't just try and rush it. Like I understand you have things you want to get out the way, especially when you're older. But if that is the sole reason, it's just because you want to hurry up and get out the way, just take time and think about it. Can't tell you what to do. Just take time and think about the decision because God was like, see, I must have to sit you down. And so I ended up graduating had I just took the time to do it.
Yeah.
Do
And
it.
then if I would have stayed in the daytime session, I probably wouldn't have had to take a year off because I think my aunt was literally holding on for me to graduate. Because as soon as I walked over, I was like, okay, so I'm done. I was like, I just have to take the summer class. Mom was like, you have to do a summer class. I was like, yeah. And as soon as I told her, I was like, okay, I'm done my summer class. She died like a week later.
Oh,
I was like, so she was really holding on just to see me like for real be like an attorney.
Yeah, I lost two grandfathers during law school, and one of the grandfathers, because I have three, so I have a blended family.
Oh, nice.
I have my mom's stepdad, who is my pop, and then I have my mom's real dad, and then my dad's dad.
Okay.
My dad's father wanted to be an attorney, and he died last year.
Oh
So
no.
graduation was a little bittersweet because I knew he would have been there, and I knew he would have been proud because he too wanted to be an attorney. And he wasn't there to celebrate with me, so that was bittersweet. But yeah, things are going to happen, and I'm not saying it's going to be that extreme.
Right. We are
Things are
extreme examples.
right. These are extreme examples that things are going to happen. You just have to take time, take those mental health days when you can, step away when you can, and get back up. And I also use this example. There's a woman in my on my Facebook group. She's graduated now, but she went through law school with 5 kids as a single mom with 5 kids and worked full time the whole time.
Whoa, how'd she do that?
I don't know, but anytime someone tells me they don't think they can do it, I bring her up as an example because I'm like, if she can do it, she had no, her only support system was a friend that she entrusted with her kids sometimes. But if she can do that with 5 kids as a single mom and work full time, I think
Hmm.
anybody can do it. Like, I stop complaining sometimes. I just think about that and I'm like, I can't complain. I can't complain. You can vent, and that's what I'm here for. I'm going to go ahead and let us wrap up because we are past the time that I said we would. Sorry for holding you so late.
Oh, no, it's fine.
Um, oh, Taylor, were you talking to? I want to make sure I
Because I talk a lot. You can ask Taylor. I talk a lot, and I always push over the time because I like having conversations with
oh, it's so good. And it just rolls. Like it doesn't feel forced or
you guys.
anything.
Exactly.
Taylor, you said let me host you on my YouTube. I'm doing a Black Women in Law series. Was that for me or was that for
That's
Miss
probably for
Sealy?
you.
Well, you're a Black woman in law too.
I mean, true, but still. Oh, it's okay, Taylor. You got your first reject. It's okay. They'll
Oh,
come.
well, I'm down, Taylor. Just let me know and reach out when. Taylor, I got plenty of rejections, but one rejection is not the end. You got this.
Right. They have plenty of law schools. There's not one law school in America. So you didn't get rejected from the professional law. So you're good.
Yes. And I also want to throw this tidbit out there. I always tell people all the time, they look at the whole picture. If you have been, because I do see some of my women in here from my group, you've heard this spill 1,000 times. I made a 148 twice on the LSAT, which is a pretty low score for the LSAT. And I still got into 2 of the 5 law schools I was accepted to. So you can still do it. Don't let one thing, one little element deter you from going forward. If this is your goal and this is what you want to do, you can do it. Legally Mommy, that you guys see in the chat, she is the co director of Moms in Law School with me. When I started this journey, she came across me on social media. She reached out and wanted to help. And she has been in the trenches with me trying to get this thing off the ground since 2021. So shout out to her. Her name is Quintera, but she goes by Legally Mommy on here. Shout out to Quintera and thank you for being in the trenches with me on Mom in Law School. Thank you to Miss D. Williams for joining me on this panel and discussing this with people who want to know this information. Because, like I said, if you Google Mom in Law School prior to our website being out there, you were not going to find a lot. So I appreciate anyone who is willing to come on and share their journey. If you are looking for more information, again, please follow our TikTok. We're also on all social platforms at Moms in Law School. You can also go on your website, and if you want to have a more one-on-one conversation about your detailed journey to law school because you want to get a little bit more personal, and ask questions based on your personal journey, what that's going to look like. I can't give you all the answers. I can only give you advice, but I do one-on-one sessions on the website. You can go book a one-on-one either phone session or Zoom session with me, and we can have a conversation on what that looks like. In the meantime and in between time, I appreciate all of you. Again, please follow both of us if you're not. And thank you for tuning in.
Thank you for having me. I had a good time. I'm happy that you have this nonprofit. I think it's so important because you are a mom in law school, and especially during the daytime when there's a lot more younger people, you feel very much alone. The only thing I didn't like about it is I didn't get to network as much as I could have.
Yes,
That's the
yes,
only
that
thing
was
I
my
did.
biggest issue too. At graduation, My mom and them kept saying, "Well, who was that? And who was that? And what did they do?" And I'm like, "I don't know any of these people."
Right,
Also,
right.
because the class I graduated with was not the class I started with, so I had a little bit more connections with the class I started with. Then when I had took a year off and came back, because Elon does their accelerated program, everyone starts and ends together.
Hmm.
So I didn't really know anybody that I graduated with. So it's like I didn't make as many connections as I wanted to, and it's difficult because of our situations and being moms. But if you can, I would say that is great advice to do, is
Hmm.
to definitely network. And
Yeah.
Taylor said donate. Yes, if you can, please donate. Like I said, my eventual goal is to give scholarships to moms who are attending law school, to give the Quimby memberships, to give out as many free resources as I can. I do everything out of pocket. So those of you who are in here know the website was down for a couple months because I just couldn't afford it. So any donation is perfect. Christine, yes, we are on YouTube. Not We don't have a strong presence on YouTube. Our biggest presences are on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. We're just really kind of starting our TikTok and YouTube journey, but you can follow us on all social media platforms at Moms in Law School. Um, that's all social media platforms. So yes, if you can donate, please. But if you would just share the information, that'll help get the word out there. And that way we can get this information out and also support any other moms who are interested.
This is great. I'm happy you have things like this. I
All
wish I
right.
would have had this. I really do.
No, and I'm like, I wish I had this for me. Like I'm providing this for other people, but that's another reason I shouted out Quintera, because she was like kind of that for me, because she's a year, I think she's either a year or two ahead of me. But she was like, even though she's my co-director, she's still kind of like was Moms in Law School to me. Um,
Oh, that's nice.
so again, thank you everybody. I don't want to hold up any longer. Thank you again, Misty Williams. I appreciate this so
Thank
much.
you. Have a good
Everyone,
night. Thank you. Bye.
bye.